Imagine a person eating a pretty little plant in the garden that ends up killing them faster than a snake bite. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it's not. Our grandparents knew something modern gardeners have forgotten. Not all garden plants are friendly. And today, I'm going to show you 20 of these deadly plants our grandparents feared in the garden. If you ever wondered why or how some garden plants became a threat, this is the video you've been wanting for, and trust me. Number 2 is a plant that killed the mother of a former U.S. president. You don't want to miss it. Now, let's get into it. Deadly nightshade, belladonna. We're starting with a plant that produces shiny black berries resembling small cherries hanging in clusters among dull green leaves. The deadly nightshade, or belladonna, as the Italian women who used the plant's diluted extracts to dilate their pupils called it. They believed it made them more beautiful, hence the name belladonna, meaning beautiful lady. Although beautiful, this plant became notorious for being deadly. Just 2 or 3 berries contain enough atropine and scopolamine to kill a child, while 10 to 20 can kill an adult. The alkaloids attack the nervous system, causing confusion, hallucinations, convulsions, and respiratory failure. Our grandparents identified it by its large, pointed oval leaves and bell-shaped purple flowers. They'd teach children to recognize it from yards away because getting close enough to touch it was already too close. In rural communities, finding deadly nightshade growing near the property meant immediate eradication, often followed by warnings to every neighbor within walking distance. White snakeroot, Ageratina altissima. This right here is white snakeroot. To the average person, it looks harmless with its clusters of small, fuzzy white flowers and toothed, heart-shaped leaves. This native woodland plant grows abundantly in shaded areas across the eastern United States, often forming dense patches along forest edges. But beneath that pretense is a plant that caused one of the deadliest indirect poisoning epidemics in American history. The plant contains trematol, a toxic alcohol that accumulates in the milk and meat of animals that eat it. People who consumed the contaminated milk or beef developed milk sickness, a mysterious disease characterized by weakness, vomiting, severe muscle pain, tremors, and often death. Nancy Hanks. Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's mother, died from milk sickness in 1818, along with thousands of other settlers. Your grandparents, especially those who kept dairy cows or goats, knew to clear white snakeroot from pastures religiously. They'd walk fence lines looking for it because even a small amount in an animal's diet could contaminate their milk. The discovery that white snakeroot caused milk sickness didn't come until the 1920s, but by then, generations had learned to fear the plant through bitter experience. If this isn't deadly enough, wait until you see what's coming at number 4. But before then, here's a plant you probably wouldn't know was deadly if you weren't told. Tobacco, Nicotiana tabacum. While cultivated tobacco is processed for smoking, the raw plant material contains far higher concentrations of nicotine and other alkaloids. Typically, wild tobacco plants produce large, sticky leaves and tubular flowers in shades of white, pink, or greenish yellow. The entire plant has a strong, distinctive smell and produces thousands of tiny seeds. How's this deadly, you may ask? The threat lies in the nicotine. You see, in its raw form, nicotine is a potent neurotoxin. Just touching tobacco leaves with bare hands can cause nicotine to be absorbed through the skin, creating symptoms of poisoning. Ingesting raw tobacco leaves or drinking water. They've steeped in causes nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, excessive salivation, confusion, seizures, respiratory failure, and potentially death. Grandparents often warned about tobacco, citing that children have died from eating the leaves or cigarettes, while livestock deaths from grazing on wild tobacco were common. They recommended wearing long sleeves while handling the plants and washing them thoroughly afterward. Next up is the dreaded foxglove. How can a plant be a treatment and a danger at the same time? Well, that's foxglove. It stands out in any garden with its tall spikes of tubular flowers in shades of purple, pink, or white, each bloom speckled inside like a spotted throat. The flowers hang downward in a graceful arrangement along stems that can reach 5 feet tall, while the fuzzy oval leaves form rosettes at the base. But all that glitters isn't gold. Every part of this plant contains cardiac glycosides, particularly digitoxin and digoxin, compounds that affect heart rhythm. While modern medicine uses carefully measured doses of digitalis to treat heart conditions, consuming any part of the plant causes nausea, vomiting, visual disturbances, including seeing everything tinged with yellow or green, and dangerous heart arrhythmias. Too much, and the heart stops completely. It was the one plant your grandparents kept far from vegetable gardens, where children might be playing. Oleander, Nerium oleander. Oleander's beauty made it one of the most popular landscape plants across the southern United States, with its stunning display of clusters of pink, white, red, or yellow flowers blooming prolifically against narrow, leathery evergreen leaves. Despite its beauty, our grandparents never let it fool them, because oleander is so poisonous that a single leaf can be fatal to a child, while smoke from burning oleander branches can cause serious illness. Every part of the plant contains cardiac glycosides, similar to those in foxglove, but in higher concentrations. These compounds disrupt the heart's electrical signals, causing irregular heartbeat, nausea, bloody diarrhea, drowsiness, tremors, seizures, coma, and death. Even honey made from oleander nectar is poisonous. There were stories of campers who died after using oleander branches as skewers for roasting hot dogs, or of children who sucked nectar from the flowers, thinking they were honeysuckle. These cautionary tales ensured everyone respected the plant's deadly nature. Next up is the infamous hemlock, Conium maculatum. Does the name Socrates ring a bell? Yeah, the Greek philosopher. He met his end at the hands of hemlock, a plant that looks deceptively similar to wild carrots and parsley, with delicate white flower clusters arranged in umbrella shapes and finely divided fern-like leaves. The entire plant, from its white taproot to its ridged stems spotted with purple blotches, emits a distinctive musty odor often likened to that of mouse urine. What made hemlock particularly terrifying to your grandparents was how easily it could be mistaken for food. Foragers who confused it with wild carrots or parsnips faced agonizing deaths. The plant contains conine and other alkaloids that cause progressive paralysis, starting with the legs and moving upward until the respiratory muscles fail. Victims remain fully conscious as their bodies shut down. Even worse, there's no antidote. So it's best to avoid it by remembering its telltale purple spots on hollow stems and that unmistakable smell. Water hemlock, Cicuta. Here's the big scary brother of hemlock called water hemlock. It grows in wet areas, marshes, and along stream banks, producing clusters of small white flowers that can be mistaken for those of several edible wild plants. The thick, fleshy roots look similar to parsnips or wild carrots and even smell somewhat sweet when cut open, releasing yellow oil from internal chambers. What makes it scarier than the hemlock is that it's widely considered the most violently toxic plant in North America. The roots contain cicutoxin, a compound so potent that a piece the size of a walnut can kill an adult within hours. The poison attacks the central nervous system, causing violent seizures so severe that they can break bones. Victims often die from respiratory failure during convulsions. Our grandparents warned us kids that even touching the plant's sap could cause skin reactions. Livestock deaths from water hemlock were common enough that farmers would spend days clearing it from pastures and watering areas, knowing that a single plant could kill a cow. Poison ivy. Now, here's a plant whose name didn't match the danger it brought, but was still trouble. Poison ivy grows as a vine, ground cover, or small shrub with leaves arranged in groups of 3. "Leaves of 3, let it be," was the universal warning. The leaves are glossy green in summer, turning brilliant red in fall. But contact with any part of poison ivy was trouble. It caused most people to break out in intensely itchy, blistering rashes. The culprit is urushiol oil, found in all parts of the plant, including the stems, roots, and even the smoke from burning vines. The rash typically appears within 12 to 48 hours of exposure, starting with redness and swelling, then developing into lines of blisters that weep and crust over. Severe cases require medical treatment, while extremely sensitive individuals can develop dangerous swelling and respiratory problems. Grandparents taught children to identify poison ivy from an early age, making it one of the first plants every child learned to recognize and avoid. Lily of the Valley. If there was ever a better description of beauty in disguise, it is the lily of the valley. This plant produces delicate bell-shaped white flowers that hang in arching sprays, releasing an intensely sweet fragrance that fills spring gardens. The plant's broad ribbed leaves emerge in pairs, and later in summer, small orange-red berries appear. This charming ground cover was beloved for its beauty and scent, often planted near doorways and windows. But beneath that innocent appearance lies serious danger. The entire plant contains cardiac glycosides similar to digitalis, affecting heart rhythm and function. The berries are particularly tempting to children, with a slightly sweet taste that belies their toxicity. Consuming even a few berries or leaves causes nausea, vomiting, mental confusion, blurred vision, irregular heartbeat, and potentially fatal cardiac arrest. While our grandparents treasured lily of the valley for its fragrance and would cut stems for bouquets, they'd never plant it within reach of toddlers. Next up is a plant that can make you think you're seeing your late grandparents, and even join them. Jimsonweed. The Jimsonweed is known for producing large, trumpet-shaped, white or purple flowers that open at dusk, releasing a sweet fragrance that attracts night-flying moths. The plant's large, coarsely toothed leaves and spiny seed pods, which split open to reveal hundreds of black seeds, make it distinctive. Despite its beauty, every part contains tropane alkaloids, atropine, scopolamine, and hyoscyamine. But Jimsonweed earned its fearsome reputation through centuries of poisonings, both accidental and intentional. The seeds have a nutty taste that can fool people into eating them, while teenagers have long experimented with the plant for its hallucinogenic properties. The results are nightmarish: severe hallucinations, dangerous hyperthermia, violent behavior, seizures, and often death. Survivors frequently have no memory of their actions during intoxication, and our grandparents knew Jimsonweed by several names: Devil's Snare, Hell's Bells, Locoweed, all warning of its dangers. The plant commonly grew in disturbed soil, pastures, and along roadsides. Castor Bean now. Don't be fooled by the name of this plant. It isn't edible in any sense. Castor bean plants grow rapidly into impressive specimens with large, glossy, palm-shaped leaves, often tinged with red or purple. The seed pods are covered in soft spines and contain beautiful mottled seeds that look like oversized beans, often with brown and cream patterns. These seeds were sometimes used as beads or decorations, which led to numerous tragedies because those innocent-looking seeds contain ricin, one of the deadliest naturally occurring poisons known to science. Just 1 or 2 seeds can kill a child if chewed, while 4 to 8 can kill an adult. Ricin prevents cells from making proteins, causing them to die. There's no antidote. Symptoms begin with burning in the mouth and throat, followed by severe vomiting, bloody diarrhea, seizures, and death within 3 to 5 days. Grandparents might have used store-bought castor oil as medicine, but they treated the plants themselves with extreme caution, warning children never to touch the seeds. Poison oak. Poison oak resembles its cousin poison ivy, but with leaves that look more like oak leaves, hence the name. In the West, it grows as a shrub or vine with leaves arranged in groups of 3 that have rounded, lobed edges. The plants turn brilliant red in fall, creating beautiful displays that try to hide their dangerous nature. Poison oak contains the same urushiol oil as poison ivy, often in even higher concentrations. The reaction is identical: intensely itchy, blistering rashes that can cover large areas of the body. What made poison oak particularly feared in western states was its abundance and the way it could grow into large, woody shrubs that were hard to eradicate. The oil could transfer from tools, gloves, or pets to skin long after the initial contact. Our grandparents living in areas where poison oak grew learned to identify it in all seasons, including winter, when the leafless stems still contained active oils. In number 17, we'll look at the big bad brother, poison sumac. Monkshood. Monkshood produces striking spikes of deep purple or blue flowers shaped like medieval monks' hoods, rising from deeply divided, dark green leaves. The plant's elegant appearance made it popular in cottage gardens, while its other name, wolfsbane, hints at its deadly nature, which was seen in the aconitine it contained, one of the most powerful plant toxins known. Simply handling the plant can cause the poison to be absorbed through the skin, creating numbness and tingling. Ingestion causes a burning sensation in the mouth, excessive salivation, vomiting, diarrhea, and cardiac problems, including irregular heartbeat and cardiac arrest. Death can occur within hours. What makes aconitine particularly dangerous is that it has no specific antidote, and the amount needed to kill is remarkably small. Our grandparents would wear gloves when handling monkshood if they grew it at all. They knew that the roots were especially concentrated with poison, and that even water contaminated by the plant could cause symptoms. Up next is a plant you've probably never heard of: yew, Taxus baccata and T. canadensis. Yew trees create dense, dark evergreen hedges with flat, needle-like leaves that remain green year-round. In late summer, the trees produce distinctive bright red berries, actually fleshy cups called arils, that surround a single hard seed. These cheerful red berries stand out against the dark foliage, and the soft, sweet aril itself is actually the only non-toxic part of the entire plant. But inside that innocent-looking seed is a compound called taxine alkaloids, so poisonous that a single seed can kill a child, while several can kill an adult. Every other part of the yew is equally deadly. The needles, bark, wood, and roots are all loaded with toxins that cause cardiac arrest with little warning. There's no antidote. Symptoms include nausea, abdominal pain, difficulty breathing, trembling, and irregular heartbeat, quickly progressing to cardiac arrest and death. Livestock deaths from yew were common enough that farmers would remove yew trees from fence lines. Even clippings from pruning yew hedges had to be disposed of carefully, as horses and cattle would sometimes eat them from compost piles with fatal results. Rosary Pea vines produce beautiful seeds that look like tiny ladybugs, bright red with a single black spot at one end. These seeds are so pretty and uniform that they've been used for centuries to make jewelry, rosaries, and decorative items. But these gorgeous seeds contain abrin, a toxin even more poisonous than ricin from castor beans. A single seed, if chewed or scratched, contains enough abrin to kill an adult. The poison prevents cells from making proteins, causing them to die throughout the body. Symptoms include severe vomiting, diarrhea, seizures, liver and kidney failure, and death within 3 to 4 days. There's no antidote. What makes Rosary Pea particularly insidious is that intact seeds can pass through the digestive system harmlessly, but the moment one is damaged through chewing or breaking, it becomes deadly. Your grandparents knew these seeds as Jequirity beans, or crab's eyes, and stories circulated about jewelry makers who died after pricking their fingers while drilling the seeds. Rhubarb leaves. Rhubarb was a staple in your grandparents' vegetable gardens, with its large crinkled leaves on thick red or green stalks. The tart stalks were treasured for pies, jams, and sauces, especially in early summer when fresh fruit was still scarce. Every garden had at least one rhubarb patch, and the plants would produce reliably for decades with minimal care. But while the stalks are perfectly safe to eat, the leaves contain high levels of oxalic acid and other compounds that can cause serious poisoning. Eating rhubarb leaves causes burning in the mouth and throat, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, weakness, and potentially fatal kidney damage. The oxalic acid binds with calcium in the blood, forming crystals that damage the kidneys and other organs. Our grandparents knew this instinctively. They'd harvest stalks and immediately discard the leaves, often composting them away from the vegetable garden. During World War I, when food was scarce, some British authorities mistakenly promoted rhubarb leaves as a vegetable substitute for spinach, leading to numerous poisonings and deaths before the error was recognized. Poison sumac grows as a tall shrub or small tree in wetlands and swampy areas, producing compound leaves with 7 to 13 smooth-edged leaflets arranged in pairs along a red stem. The plant produces drooping clusters of white berries and turns brilliant orange-red in fall. Unlike harmless sumacs that grow in dry areas with red berry clusters, poison sumac prefers wet ground, and this in itself is trouble. Poison sumac is far more potent than poison ivy or poison oak, containing higher concentrations of urushiol oil. The resulting rashes are typically more severe and extensive, with larger blisters and more intense itching. Because poison sumac grows in wetlands where people might be wading or fishing, exposure often affects the legs and lower body, sometimes covering large areas with weeping blisters. Grandparents who lived near wetlands or swamps knew to identify poison sumac and avoid those areas entirely during the growing season. Don't be deceived by the next plant. Angel's trumpet. Angel's trumpet produces enormous pendulous flowers shaped like trumpets or bells that can be 8 to 12 inches long, in colors ranging from white to yellow, pink, or orange, hence the name. These dramatic flowers often have a sweet fragrance that intensifies at night. But despite its beauty, every part of the angel's trumpet contains powerful tropane alkaloids, scopolamine, hyoscyamine, and atropine. These compounds cause hallucinations, confusion, rapid heartbeat, seizures, and can be fatal in high doses. The plant has been used historically for its psychoactive properties, but the line between a hallucinogenic dose and a lethal dose is dangerously thin. Symptoms of poisoning include extreme dry mouth, dilated pupils, flushed skin, hallucinations, aggressive behavior, and seizures. Your grandparents knew angel's trumpet by names like devil's trumpet or Jimsonweed tree, reflecting its dangerous nature. They'd plant it in areas where children couldn't reach it if they grew it at all. Giant hogweed. Giant hogweed lives up to its name, growing up to 15 feet tall with huge, deeply divided leaves that can span 4 feet across. The plant produces enormous white flower clusters that can reach 2 feet in diameter, making it impossible to miss. This impressive size made it popular as an ornamental in Victorian gardens. But giant hogweed produces clear, watery sap that contains furanocoumarins, compounds that cause phytophotodermatitis. When this sap contacts skin and is then exposed to sunlight, it causes severe burns, blisters, and permanent scarring. The reaction can occur hours or even days after exposure when sunlight triggers the reaction. These aren't simple rashes, but actual burns that can require skin grafts in severe cases. If sap gets in the eyes, it can cause temporary or permanent blindness. Our grandparents often wore protective clothing, gloves, and face protection when destroying it. Mayapple Mayapple grows in shady woodland areas, producing umbrella-like leaves that emerge in spring, with a single white flower hidden beneath the leaves that develops into a lemon-shaped yellow fruit by late summer. The plant often grows in colonies, covering forest floors with its distinctive foliage. The ripe yellow fruit has a sweet, tropical flavor and was occasionally eaten by those who knew how to identify it correctly. But every part of Mayapple except the fully ripe fruit is poisonous. The roots, leaves, and unripe fruits contain podophyllitoxin and other compounds that cause severe vomiting, diarrhea, and potentially fatal intestinal damage. The roots were used historically in small amounts for medicinal purposes by people with specialized knowledge, but accidental poisonings were common when untrained individuals attempted to use them. Our grandparents who encountered Mayapple in the woods knew that the ripe fruit could be eaten carefully, but they'd warn children never to touch the plant. They understood that distinguishing between ripe and unripe fruit was difficult, and that eating the wrong stage could cause serious illness. These 20 deadly plants remind us why our grandparents approached their gardens with a combination of knowledge and healthy fear. They understood that beauty and danger often grew side by side, and that survival meant teaching every generation which plants to admire from a distance and which to never touch at all. What deadly plant do you remember your grandparents warning you about? Share your stories in the comments below. Leave this video a hype, and see you on the next one.